Coming up next, Yahoo spreads malware, Google gets into your car, and CES hits Vegas. Next on TNT.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
It's Monday, January 6th, 2014, and this is Tech News Today. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used iPhone, iPad, or other Apple products are worth at Gazelle.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Mike Elgin.
I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Jason Howell.
So, do you have that CES fever? Are you a CES cynic, or are you looking forward to all the news this week?
Well, I went to CES many years in a row, but I haven't been the last couple of years, and I can't say I miss it at all.
I certainly don't mind not being there.
Right.
But I kind of like all the goofy gadgets, even the ones that never become products. They're so crazy, as we're going to find out later today in the show. I don't know. I have a soft spot for CES.
My main problem is that, yes, there are lots of fun gadgets, but I need them to come to market, or I don't want to spend too much time thinking about products that are really just vaporware.
Good point, good point. Well, speaking of CES, let's get to the top news. Yahoo accidentally distributed malware to millions of users through malicious advertising posted on the yahoo.com site. The discovery was disclosed by a Dutch security firm, Fox IT, and confirmed by Yahoo on Saturday. The malware exploited vulnerabilities in Java, redirecting users to another site to install even more malware. In a statement, Yahoo said the attack occurred January 3rd on European sites only, mostly Britain, France, and Romania, according to Fox IT, and did not affect Mac or mobile users. But last night, a Yahoo spokesperson told Tech News Today that, in fact, the ads were served between December 31st and January 3rd, not just on one day. This new information means that 4 times more people may have been exposed than previously reported. Fox IT estimates that some 27,000 actual infections occurred per hour during the attack, for a possible total of 2.5 million infections.
The Pirate Bay is built on peer-to-peer file sharing, that much we know, but the site itself may soon be accessed via P2P, which means you wouldn't need domain names or server farms to access it, and it would make the site harder for ISPs to block. Now, we heard back in December that the Pirate Bay planned to unveil this new system, and finally got some more details yesterday, so here's the deal. It's based on the peer-to-peer distribution of a site's indexed data. Then, a new browser-like client displays that data locally, according to a Pirate Bay insider quoted on the Torrent Freak blog. The new platform will support the Pirate Bay and other torrent sites and will be released as an application and plugins for both Firefox and Chrome.
Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer may soon have more Microsoft stock than founder and chairman Bill Gates. Inconceivable, it's true. The reason is that Gates sells an average of 80 million shares each year in order to fund his philanthropic organization, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, according to an article in Computer World. At current rates of divestment, Gates' shares could drop below the roughly 333 million shares owned by Ballmer as early as this summer, making Ballmer Microsoft's biggest shareholder. Don't worry about Gates, though. He'll be all right. In fact, Gates' net worth increased by nearly $16 billion in 2013, making him once again the richest human on the planet with a net worth of $78.5 billion.
The next second screen is on your screen, sort of. A new TV adapter called the C-Space In-Air Smart HDMI adapter, which is a great name, showed up at CES yesterday. So based on what you're already watching, it lays related internet content on the screen on top of your current content and then pulls in related social content as well. You control the experience via an iOS or Android app, or you can go in-air gestures if you have an Xbox or Leap Motion. And if you have a 3D TV, this is where it gets really cool. The contextual info is floating between you and the screen. C-Space claims that we'll see the adapter hit retail stores in the second half of the year for $99.
I hope that one isn't vaporware. I want it. Consumer drone maker Parrot unleashed 2 crazy smartphone-controlled gadgets at CES yesterday. One of them is the flying mini drone, which is a tiny version of the AR drone quadricopter, but with optional wheels that enable it to roll across floors, walls, and even ceilings. The other one is the Sumo, which can roll, jump 3 feet high in the air and do other tricks while it zaps live video back to the controlling phone or tablet. Parrot told the press at CES that both products would ship in 2014, but they didn't announce pricing.
Serial product leaker EvLeak says that the rumored Asus Padfone X is coming to AT&T in the U.S., even though it hasn't even been announced yet. What we do know is that it's a smartphone that docks into a tablet. Rumors really got going after the Padfone X was founded and Antutu, which is a benchmarking database, back in December. Sources say that the X version will run Android KitKat 4.4 on a Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 processor and performs well in tests, at least so far. This would be the first Padfone that targets the U.S. market, and the official announcement is expected maybe as early as today.
I want that one too. Car maker Hyundai, announced today that Google Glass will be able to operate some features of the 2015 Hyundai Genesis car expected in the spring of this year. The features are possible because of Hyundai's cloud-based BlueLink platform, which will enable all kinds of wearable devices, wristwatches, and so on, to access some of the car's features. Hyundai is specifically working on a glassware app that will enable you to use Xbox Connect-like hand gestures to move from one screen to the next, then use the Glass's touchpad to start the car, lock the doors, and hopefully pay the ticket you'll get for wearing Google Glass behind the wheel.
Maybe CES should stand for Car Electronics Show, at least this year. Kind of last year, too. Today, Google announced partnerships with car makers Audi, GM, Honda, and Hyundai, and GPU maker NVIDIA to form the Open Automotive Alliance, which focuses on standards for putting Android in car dashboards for entertainment and navigation. The alliance is Google's answer to Apple's iOS in the Car program, which was announced back in June. You might also recall last year, Tesla CEO Elon Musk said his company is planning to use Android to power that big old 17-inch dashboard screens in those Tesla Model S cars.
Well, today show is brought to you by Gazelle.com. And Gazelle is, of course, as you know, is a site that enables you to send your old devices into them, and they'll send you back money. Now, you know you've got stuff lying around in boxes or in the garage. Jerry Seinfeld has a routine that basically points out that once something goes in the garage, it's never coming back in the house. And that device, that gadget, that old phone, whatever it is you've got, is not doing anybody any favors. And in fact, people want to contribute to the environment. One of the best ways you can contribute to the global environment is to get your old devices back into circulation. The only environmentally friendly phone or gadget there is the one that's never built. Now, if you get your phone back to Gazelle and they'll get it into the hands of somebody who wants to use it, that's another phone or tablet that doesn't ever need to be built. All you do is go to Gazelle.com, that's Gazelle.com, find the item that you have that you'd like to send to them, and they'll tell you how much they'll pay you for it. They'll give you 30 days to send it in with that price locked in, so you don't have to worry about that. And speaking of the prices and value of these devices, they generally get less valuable over time, even as the batteries get bad and they become less desirable to the people who are going to buy them eventually. So you want to do this right away. Gazelle will even wipe your data for free, and Gazelle has paid more than $100 million to more than 700,000 customers. I checked for a couple of the devices that I have that I don't really use that much. My 4th generation iPad, they'll pay me $215 for that one. My iPhone 4S, they'll give me $80 for that. That's a lot of money toward an iPad Air, which I really could use. So go to Gazelle.com, throw in the devices that you have and see how much they're going to pay you. Just take a minute and go to Gazelle.com and find out. Do it now because your iPhone or your other gadget may lose value as you wait. Well, now we turn to the conversation. Our own Father Robert Ballecer is in Las Vegas. That's right, we sent a priest to Las Vegas to cover the show for TWiT, and here is his report.
Hey TNT, I'm Father Robert here at CES Unveiled 2014, here to give you a little taste of what's out here. If you watched last year's special, you probably remember this man, Mr. Sean Liu, the Lenovo person who introduced us to this. Yeah. This is their tablet, their wonderfully large tablet, 27 inches of Windows 8 goodness, but they've increased the capabilities to something that I really like. Sean, could you please show us this on top of there?
Yeah, sure.
So when you drop any Android phone running the Aurora app, It automatically recognizes that you've put the phone down, it's synchronizing with it, and it's going to grab all the photos from that phone and make them available on your desktop. See, I can just bring them out. Now here's something else I like. I can use the phone as a controller. All I have to do is start shaking, and the photos from the phone start to fall out, and now I can start doing everything from editing. I can change them, I can annotate them, or if I want, I can just make them all go away. Not only is it recording what's going on in front of your camera, in front of your car, but it gives you where your weight distribution is. Are you dumping off the brake too quickly? Are you getting on the throttle too hard? It will give you your GPS position. It will give you your tachometer. It will give you what gear you're in, how much throttle you're using, and how much brake you're expressing. This is the sort of information that people will take after their lap, dump it into the computer, pull the little SD card out, and analyze how they were driving.
The secret sauce is in those optical lenses I told you about. And so what they do is they redirect, without me doing anything, it's all hands-free magic, redirect the camera angles that are already part of the iPad.
And then when I will be staring directly into the eyes of the other person.
And they're seeing me directly into the eyes, which of course, that's what communication's all about.
That's really great. That's really great.
This is a flow meter, but I don't have to actually install it in the flow, right? It just goes right on top of the pipe.
Right. It sits right on top of the pipe. It measures gallons per minute and can start to tell any leaks across your home just by snapping it on there. It's a sonic technology. We worked with a partner to help develop it.
In front of me, I've got the sticker tracker and this is the wallet tracker. Both of these devices are Bluetooth LE, very low power. In fact, the smaller device will last for 6 months. The larger device will last for a year. And what they let me do is to jack certain devices. I could jack my wallet, I could jack my keys, I could jack that little device that I carry around with me that I always seem to put down at the worst possible time. And then if I lose it, it will actually tell me not just that I've walked away, but also show me the last place that it knew where it was.
14 megapixels, 1080p, and the camera can actually be controlled from your smartphone, even when it's up in the sky. So take pictures, record videos, set aperture, all of those things.
So I've got a 4K 10-finger touch display, so here I'm showing some content. The beauty of this monitor is when I unplug my devices, I end up with Android operating system left behind. So now I have a full Android ecosystem. So we're going to be running NVIDIA Tegra's latest with Android 4.4 KitKat.
So this is a rear type keyboard. We've got the keys on the back side, which allows you to grip the device and actuate the keys at the same time.
Most of the people watching are going to say, why? Oh, why would I ever want something like this? What is this built for?
Yeah, it's a great question. What we're finding is that the healthcare industry is very interested in this device.
We've actually got a way for you to trigger the part of your brain that is responsible for sleep. When it turns red, when it gets deeper red, it's actually triggering that piece of your brain that says, look, go ahead and start shutting everything down. And then when it turns blue, and gets brighter and brighter blue, that triggers a part of your brain that says it's time to get up and be active.
It doesn't measure how much brain you have, right?
It's been a night of passion, of innovation, of gadgets and gizmos. We've seen everything from large screens to really cool doodads that fly in the air. But I think there's a trend that I've been noticing, and that is there are far fewer vendors here that just do a case or just do a battery. Instead, we're seeing the creeping of the old innovation that I think I saw in CES maybe a decade ago. We have a few vendors here who are doing things with Bluetooth LE that are really cutting edge. We've got a vendor who's trying a really good price point for a 4K display that's not just a display. We've got that same vendor who's trying to give us a tablet that gives us the functionality that we were promised when the original Microsoft Big Table Surface came out. It's an exciting time for tech because I think we're getting that third, fourth, fifth, whatever it is, wind of innovation. We know that tablets are mature. We know that mobile devices are mature. We know that everything has to be connected, and so now we're seeing the best of the best give us tech that takes that to the next level. I think what we'll see over the next couple of days are things like home automation that involves all those gadgets. We're going to see a new breed of storage technologies that make it really easy for the regular consumer to do things that were typically reserved for the enterprise. In other words, stay tapped.
Thank you, Robert. Great report. It's great to see all the exciting stuff going on at CES. Maybe there's even a little bit of TV news coming out of CES. What do you think?
Yeah, well, there actually is. Roku has partnered with Hisense and TCL Those are TV makers that you may not have heard of. However, they sold combined about 21 million TVs in 2012. So this is actually quite a bit of TVs. So here's the deal. Roku makes a set-top box, right? I've got a Roku. I've been using it for years. For a while, it was kind of my number one until a lot of those apps went to the Apple TV. But Roku could say that they had HBO Go first and a variety of other channels, and has been doing quite well. They have over 12,000 channels available in their channel store. For 5 years, Roku's been around and has sold about 8 million streaming players. However, everybody knows that the set-top box is kind of the middleman. How much longer do we still need a little extra something when you can bundle it into a smart TV that has Wi-Fi capability and apps built in?
You love your Roku too, right? Everybody who uses it seems to really love it.
Yeah, it's not that I don't like the Roku. I just find that it is an extra step, and it is a external component, like a little, an extra hard drive. Do you want that if your laptop itself can just be more powerful, right? So Roku has gotten hip to this. They know where the future is going. They've partnered with both Hisense and TCL, and it's going to be kind of interesting. It's not just that Roku is the back-end OS inside this TV, so you don't even really need to know anything about Roku. You just say, "Ooh, I got this new TV. Let's power it up." Great, there are these apps. I've got a Netflix subscription. Let's enter my credentials. We're good to go. They've also made the remote for these TVs a lot more Roku-friendly. The Roku remote, if you're familiar with it, only has a few buttons. It's very easy to navigate. Right. I think it's a little childish looking myself, but it's easy to use. Remotes historically are pretty awful. Too many buttons, too many notes. So what do you think, Mike? I mean, I think it's really smart on Roku's part to get integrated into smart TVs. But I think it also is interesting for distributors of content because they don't have to worry about distributing if people already like getting, let's say, Time Warner's content via an app that Roku already provides.
Yeah, and it's also a brilliant move for Hisense and TCL because I get the feeling that the kind of people, if they have Hisense fanboys, I've never heard of one, but the kind of people who would buy a Hisense or a TCL TV would be a different audience from the kind of people who are enthusiastic about Roku. So it's a way for them to get into kind of the U.S. market, into, the Roku fans tend to be gadget-friendly people or people who are really into good quality TV experience. So this is a way to get those people away from the Samsungs and the Sony type TVs and get them to use a device that they wouldn't otherwise do. And I think, I think if this is successful, this is another sort of hook that TVs, I mean, let's face it, a television, is kind of a generic thing, or can be. And so everybody wants to do a smart TV, and this is a big interface play. It's all about user interfaces. That's why Apple, which is very good at user interfaces, is a major player. Microsoft, I think, has done an excellent job with the Xbox. So everybody's going to be competing with each other. And also, of course, we talked about the other day, the LG WebOS-based user interface. That's another really interesting interface for televisions. It's a battle over interfaces, just kind of like smartphones or tablets. So that's great news because one of the worst things about the television viewing experience has been the horrible interfaces that the clickers, the remote controls, way too many buttons, confusing to use. Nobody knows how to program them or use them for the most part. And so this is a great new world of television where innovators like Roku can come in and just transform the whole experience and make it warm and fuzzy.
Then again, you could argue, well, Roku has just beaten Apple to the punch, right? Yeah. But Apple doesn't want to use some other manufacturer's television. So there's the difference there, right? Roku is saying we give up control over some of the hardware because we want to control the back-end experience and we want you to get used to using Roku. And I think they're going to sell some TVs.
I think you're right. Well, at last year's CES, there was a smart fork called the Happy Fork, if you recall, which actually kept track of how fast you ate. And so, this year, that same company called Colibri has something called a smart toothbrush that watches you to make sure you brush your teeth right. There's another device called the Aura Sleep System, which Father Robert Balliser showed us in his report, from a company called Withings to make sure you're sleeping right. It has the lights and everything. And then there's another device called the June bracelet from Netatamo, which tracks sun exposure and alerts your phone so that your phone goes off if you're getting too much sun. Now, the question is, does everything have to be smart these days? I mean, do I need the internet in order to brush my teeth and go to bed? What are the limits of this thing? And are we going to be chasing these devices all over the house to make sure, is this one charged? Is that one connected? I wonder what the limits are of the kind of smart devices we're seeing at CES this year.
Well, okay, no, I certainly don't need the internet to brush my teeth, but it is that whole concept of collecting data over your habits to figure out what kind of trends you are. It's the quantitative self, right? Yeah. Quantified self. That's sort of the term for all of this. Weight control, fitness, but just in general, these patterns that we have as humans, that can be interesting information that if gathered correctly and then presented back to me, yeah, maybe I am kind of interested in the way that I do things. Do I always do things at a certain time? Does the weather have anything to do with it? I mean, I do find a lot of that fascinating. That said, I think that these a smart toothbrush, hairbrush, there are certain things where it's like, okay, you're grasping at straws a little bit. This is where CES sometimes gets a little silly. And we all kind of laugh and say, yeah, look, everything's got the internet now. Yeah. But I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think it exists because we're trying to figure out why we need it. And in some cases we will.
Yeah, I'll tell you why some people might need the smart toothbrush. The maker of this device emphasizes its use for parents. I know that when I was a kid, we always used to try to, not brush our teeth if we were too lazy or whatever. And so our parents would go in there and see if the toothbrushes were wet to see if we'd brush our teeth. So we would just run them under the sink, put them back in the glass. And, so it's a way to essentially be big brother and be the NSA and monitor and track your kids to make sure that they're brushing their teeth. It actually tells you or tells parents how many strokes, whether you brush it right, has accelerometer in it and so on. So that's one way is to get your kids to
That's actually,
brush their teeth.
I'm sure there are kids everywhere that are not going to like this, but it's like, hey, teeth are important. You don't want, this might be one of those big brother moments that kids really need. Brush your teeth better. You only went back and forth 12 times on each side. Make it 13.
That's right. Well, any hacker attack news today?
There's not so much news, but Farhad Manjoo over at the Wall Street Journal had a great article. It's just kind of going over some of the crazy breaches that we've experienced lately. So we talked last week about Snapchat phone numbers for North American users. About 4 million of us and some change leaked last week. And Mike, you and I had a conversation about, well, that sucks, but I mean, how much is that really affecting us? How important are phone numbers these days? Well, Target had credit card information, real tangible credit card information for customers leaked, actually saw a big dip in sales as a direct result of that. Now, that's the sort of thing that can hurt a company's bottom line, not just in the near term, but it hurts their reputation. So we're kind of getting now into a conversation of, well, if you're some sort of a security firm that can sell a service to a company like Target to make sure that this doesn't happen again, you might be in a really good position right now because you've got a product that companies need. According to the research firm Risk-Based Security, 2012 was a record year for security breaches. Seems like we're talking about it even more. So you can see that the trend is going up. Companies don't seem to be able to figure out how to get control of this. They don't have those people working inside for them. Then you've got something like the NSA. Whether it's for good or bad, you could argue, well, that's stealing data the same way. So how do we get control back? Manjoo says, what we have to do? We have to boycott services that just aren't giving us the security that we deserve.
He's dreaming. He's dreaming. The people, you can't, it's very difficult to get the general public to care about security, let alone privacy. People sort of go on and they just expect the industry to take care of it. The columnists expect the users to take care of it.
Right.
And the industry just expects to, as long as they're being rewarded with the customers, that everything will be fine. And in fact, that's generally, I don't see any big drop off after the Snapchat fiasco. Some other people were calling for the CEO to be fired because he didn't apologize right. Mm-hmm. So none of this is going to happen.
Which is never going to happen because Snapchat is on the up and up. Why would they mess with a good thing?
They're the flavor of the month. They're not going to worry about that at all. And there isn't going to be an uprising. That's what should happen. Users should be much more involved. They should boycott or choose products according to which are providing the best security or privacy. But they won't, and they don't. So I think he's living in a fantasy land.
I think Probably, and I bundle myself in with this group because I use Snapchat. In fact, I used it quite a bit this weekend. I was sending snaps to all my friends about my moving process, and I know that there's security issues. And you know what? Why it doesn't bother me? Because nobody took any of my money. Once my money starts going away, then I'm going to get upset. Until then, it's very hard to get people up in arms. Why would I boycott a service that's fun?
Exactly.
You know, and I'm not saying that that's the right attitude. That's not. But I think I'm speaking for a lot of people when I say, until you take my money, I'm not really all that inconvenienced.
And I think to a certain extent that's really the general consensus among the public. I think one of the ways that people can always be willing, companies can get people to give up their private data and stuff like that, is just offer them a discount. $5, you'll save money, a minor convenience, and just give us your personal information. And that's a choice people are making, and they get what they get. Well, let's move to in other news. You may have heard about Samsung's ginormous $152,000 Ultra HD TV at CES. Poetically branded as the 110S9, but it turns out that's not the biggest TV in its class. Vizio today announced at CES a 120-inch Ultra HD TV called the Reference Series Ultra HD LED Smart TV. Vizio didn't announce pricing or availability, but they did trot out the dimensions. It's 6 feet tall and weighs 400 pounds.
Whoa. All right, well, we talked about a lot of technology out of CES, but how about that weather? Not actually at CES, but it's worth noting that CES 2014 started off kind of weird. There were a lot fewer attendees because of a New Year's snowstorm in the Northeast. There was a cold snap in Chicago, canceled thousands of flights nationwide. And while that sort of thing happens during the winter, you got a lot of journalists that now aren't showing up for big parties that huge companies like Samsung, who poured who knows how much into this new keynote tonight in Las Vegas, put together. Cancellations are really bad. In fact, at one point, United's website stopped processing queries altogether, and users were getting an automated message when they called that said, "We can't handle the call volume. Please try again later."
Yeah, that's brutal for companies like Samsung because they pay a lot of extra money to get everybody's attention, but if people aren't there, they can't pay attention. Well, that's our show. Are you at CES in Las Vegas this week? If so, I am officially deputizing you as a TNT News correspondent. Post your news, pictures, or video in our subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. Send it to our email at twit.tv or call 260-TNT-SHOW and tell us the most interesting news you saw there. Also, check out our shiny new Google Plus community. Just go to the community area on G+ and search for Tech News Today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.